It is unacceptable. Wike flaws EU's report on 2023 election. Wike is trying to flood 2023 EU report on 2023 election. Does it have what it takes to flaw it? Those are international observers that have standards and they have written their report based on what they saw. So how will Wike try to flaw it? Now, wow. It's okay because he thought all that he did in River State during that period, rigging the election in favor of Tinubu, that people did not see it. Everybody saw it, both foreigners, foreign observers, and Nigerian observers, and even the voters themselves. But let's dive into the details and see what ensued between Wike and the EU team. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has faulted the European Union's report about the 2023 election. In June, the EU delivered its election report outlining 6 areas for improvement, including assuring real-time publication and access to election results. However, Wike stated on Monday that the report did not accurately reflect the results of the country's most recent poll. I sincerely do not agree with the European Union on their stance about the past election in Nigeria. I do solemnly take exceptions to their stance. You see, we thought there was no need for you to interfere in Nigeria, but rather to observe and make recommendations. And your interference came when there were electoral tribunals going on. It is not acceptable. He said when the EU ambassador to Nigeria, Samuela Isopi, visited him in Abuja office. In fact, I was surprised, like in River State. I asked how many of you were in River State to visit the 6,886 or thereabout number of polling units. Sometimes you send 1 or 2 persons. So if you have seen some infractions in 20 polling units, is that enough to make a general conclusion? And you said there in River State that they did not allow the opposition to campaign, which is totally not correct. Can you imagine? So while maintaining that the union was supposed to play an observer role, Wike urged them to respect the country's laws. Our laws cannot be a replica of yours, he added. But respondent Isopi said the report was done by independent observers who do not work under her. She, however, maintained that the EU is committed to working with Wike for development of the FCT. Other than politics. Now wash. Okay, so they visited Wike, and that is where Wike is getting the opportunity to say he does not agree with the EU report on the recent Nigerian election. Nobody agrees with what happened in Nigeria, including the foreign observers, including the EU themselves. The EU themselves, they don't need to have, they don't need to have all their people spread across the 774 local government areas of the country for them to make a conclusive report. They have to do random sampling, random visiting to see what is happening. And if they visit randomly and all the locations they visit, they see the same thing occurring, then it can be inferred. The report can be by inference that this could be what is happening across all other polling units as well. So saying that the EU report is not correct is also not correct, because the EU report is not different from what Nigerians observed, what they publish in social media, what they publish all across the media, what we saw even loaded on the internet, the kind of violence we saw in River State and in Lagos State, the kind of clash that we saw, okay, voters intimidation, voter apathy, and all of that, and the rigging that took place, not being able to transmit the votes in real time from the polling units to the INEC station at Abuja. All of that contributed to the way the election went poorly. And even though this woman is trying to be a bit political and diplomatic by saying that the report was prepared by an independent body who do not necessarily work under her, but she is committed to working with Wike to develop the FCT. Those are diplomatic statements. The fact remains that what the observers wrote, they have written it, and there's nothing you can do. That is the opinion, that is observation, and they've given it to you the candid feedback. If you like, take the feedback. If you like, don't take the feedback. Okay, that is the way this kind of thing works. But all of us know exactly what happened in River State and how Wike influenced all that happened there to favor Tinubu. Okay, so you cannot tell the woman. Of course, the woman will not come here to argue with him anyway. The woman will definitely play diplomacy and then go her own way. She's just doing her own job. Okay, so what Wike is trying to tell the woman now is that they need to respect our laws. That our laws cannot be like their own. The question is our own better than their own, or their own better than our own? And if somebody is to learn from each other, who should learn from each other in this matter, in this time, this pattern? Across all the countries in the EU, have we ever seen election problems coming out every year or every time they do election across all the countries in the EU? But in Nigeria and in Africa, after every election, there will always be post-election problems. Outcomes will be seen out there in the court everywhere. People don't accept defeat because the defeats are also not made on a plain ground, okay, on a fair ground. So that is why all the outcomes for elections in Nigeria are all being contested, because they don't reflect the true voters, outcome. Okay, so now this lady has come now from an I think EU ambassador that came here to visit Wike, just to, more of a diplomatic visit anyway. But the way Wike talks, he will still tell them that, or he was still telling them that he disagrees with them, that our own cannot be like their own, that they just set two people across the state and they don't have to use that outcome or the findings of those two people from probably 2, 3, or 4, or 20 out of 6,000 something polling units to judge. Yeah, so, but if the one they're able to visit and if they see everything repeating across all the locations they visited, then that is prevalent, that is predominant, and they can use that by inference to prepare their report. We know that there was serious violence in River State. Just like, in fact, the state that had the highest level of electoral violence were River State, Lagos State, I think Anambra State again, part of Imo, Ebonyi, Enugu, and then a few in Delta State, some other states as well. Okay, so Wike cannot tell the woman that what she's saying is not correct, because apart from, what they did, apart from sending people on ground to come and see what is happening, I think they also have satellite images of the things that happen in Nigeria, and those satellite images will produce exactly the evidence they want if they want to see how the election was marked. Okay, they will see all those satellite images and then they will give it to them, just like when we had the NSAS problem at Lekki Tollgate in Lagos, and when CNN produced their own, I think it was satellite image that CNN produced when the government was trying to sanction CNN that they were reporting wrongly. Meanwhile, the people have their evidence from satellite, and when they provided that satellite image, everybody kept quiet. Okay, the same way this election monitoring can go. If they think there was no violence, I tell you, by the time countries like EU, US, or UK produce that satellite image, I'm telling you, everybody will keep quiet. But whether you win a satellite image, we saw everything that transpired across the country during that election, and it was enough to infer or to conclude that the election was marred by violence. So that is what transpired between Wike and the EU representative that visited him at FCT. So thank you for listening, and let's have your comment.